Hi, my name is Lindsay LaShell. I'm going to introduce myself in a second, but I've got about half an hour today to talk to you guys about social media. I have no intention of talking to you for 30 minutes straight. I really want to hear your questions, your experiences. What I've done here is sort of set us up to talk about best practices, just to give you guys a little bit of structure and something to hold on to. You can, if you want to, I've got business cards up here. If you want to email me later and ask for this deck, you're very, very welcome to do that. I don't mind sharing it around. So here's our agenda. Super simple. Best practices. This is true whether you are a government organization, a religious organization, an individual representing yourself as a professional. What I'm talking to you about today is like baseline, the way to do it right, okay? So first, I'll tell you a little bit about me. San Diego native, lots of time spent on the internet. In 1998, I wrote my honors thesis from my undergraduate degree on the internet and architectural resources on the internet. It's a little early, I'll be honest, but I'm really enthusiastic about it. I'm an avid knitter. I'm married to a man who's from the Great Britain who moved here to be with me. He's wonderful. And this is our very fuzzy dog, Waffles. And everybody likes me more when I introduce Waffles, so I like to start a talk that way. So before I start talking to you, I really want to know who I'm talking to. So really quick, raise your hand if you are currently managing one or more social media campaigns. Wow, not as many as I thought. Okay, raise your hand if you're considering getting into the realm of social media. Okay, raise your hand if you are managing people who manage social media. Now I'm curious, what are the rest of you guys doing here?
I think we have to, but we don't want to, and we don't know how.
Ah, okay, I see. So you're considering it. We're talking about dipping the toe in a little bit. It's scary. No, I totally understand. It's scary. Okay, cool. That's great. That's very helpful for me. So this is for you. The first thing that people ask me when they're thinking about getting into social media is, what if something goes wrong? What if somebody says something inappropriate? What if someone does something inappropriate? What if it gets ugly really, really fast? What do I do? This is it. This is the advice. It's super straightforward. First and foremost, don't be afraid. Social media is not different from socializing in other contexts. Someone is coming to you with a respectful concern, address them respectfully. Respect their concern, take care of it right there in public where everyone can see how the resolution was reached. There's absolutely no risk in hearing someone express a concern and honestly reaching back out to them with an answer. And that is, for the most part, what is scary, right? It's scary when someone comes to you in person, but you're standing right in front of them, so you do it that way. It's exactly the same here, right? The exception to the rule is what people who spend a lot of time on the internet call trolls, right? And those are people who are disrespectful. They're just there to get their jollies off of being disrespectful. Don't feed the trolls. Just don't feed them. Don't give them any time. Don't give them any thought. Where there's disrespect, delete them, block them, stop the conversation. You absolutely never engage with someone that's not engaging in a respectful way. So there's only two ways to do this, right? You're either playing by rules, human rules that we can all understand, or you're not playing. That's it. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, ideas about that? I hear this all the time, especially from organizations like yours, that it's just like, we're so scared because we don't know what's going to happen if it goes off the rails. And I promise you, there has to be, oh, don't do that. There has to be, in my experience, a real vested, for someone to fall outside of these two categories, there's got to be a money-making opportunity involved. And frankly, that's not where you guys are at, right? That's really not relevant. So there's not a lot of opportunities or motivation for people to take advantage of what you folks are trying to do. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Do you feel a little better? Not quite? Are there?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. In other words, we do have a website.
Right.
But I don't manage the account.
Right.
But I have heard that if you want to get the young people involved, you have to do Facebook, Twitter. And I don't want to be on Facebook. I don't want to post anything on it. I don't want our church to be on it because I think that there are bad forces out there who like to use addresses and take it and they can twist them all around. I don't know about you. And I don't know if it would be worth anybody's time. It's certainly not going to be my time. If I'm going to encourage somebody to do it, I have to know what to say and what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get a whole bunch of Latino teenagers involved in an Episcopal Facebook when I know nothing about it.
That's true.
So, I mean, I'm not sure what you're saying. If somebody's rude, in what instance would they be rude on the answer to something back on Facebook?
That's the kind of thing, yeah, that's the kind of thing, is because the way that Facebook works is it's really an opportunity for conversation, right? Someone can post an image or a video or, just some text, and the sort of the reason why I encourage organizations like yours to do it is because it gives you a messaging platform. Your people are already there. Everybody's on Facebook. This is just the way it is now. So I appreciate your privacy concerns and stuff like that, but your audience is there. So this is an opportunity for you to, the sort of philosophy that I have about it is, if they're already there and you can find them there, that's way cheaper and easier for you than it is to go through the work of doing things to try to bring them somewhere where they're not already, right? So if you've got messaging that you want to put in front of them, an invitation to an event, or just some uplifting words, or whatever it is, put it where they're going through, they're checking out their, kids and their friends' dogs, and all that stuff's already happening. So if you can slide your message in there too, then it becomes part of their life, it becomes part of their experience, it's more integrated. So we'll talk more about like what to say and how to say it and that kind of thing. But across the board, I always want to sort of set people's mind at ease about how things could go wrong. Because the truth is, there's not a lot of opportunity for things to go wrong on Facebook. If you're not familiar with it, it can feel really scary. Privacy concerns are certainly something. But in terms of interacting with people, it doesn't turn out to be, it turns out to be something that's much scarier once you haven't done it. Okay? Yes?
If you're the admin on Facebook and someone says something that you don't agree with, most people delete it. And also, I do Facebook for the people use.
Mm-hmm.
If there are people who join it that look weird, like somebody joined from Indonesia, I block them. So, I mean, we can just there's ways around what you're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, if you don't have one. If you don't have Facebook, you're not going to be meeting the kids. And Instagram and Twitter and just name all, they have all, most of them have everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say it's an important for myself and for the people that I advise, we usually stick to the rule that user content gets to stay up. When someone posts something that might be a little bit agitating, they might fundamentally disagree, with your message and what you're trying to say. If you want to really police that very tightly, strongly recommend having a terms and conditions or something like that you can post on your, it just stays as a link on your Facebook page forever, so that you can refer to it and be like, you're violating our policy here. Otherwise, I always tend to err towards, if it's not disrespectful, just let it live, just ignore it. Absolutely, oh, of course, no, disrespectful, absolutely no question. Right, yeah. Right, yeah, that's the trick. Okay, cool, so let's get into sort of the way that I'm going to talk about this is social media sort of works as it's held up by some combination of your message, the thing you're trying to say and the thing you're trying to accomplish, and your audience and the thing that they're trying to say and the thing that they're trying to accomplish, right? Somewhere in between, if you can find the middle ground there, that's where you'll be really successful with social media. So what I'm talking about here is I've got one of these for your audience, I've got another one for your message, and we're gonna try to figure out how to put them together in really in powerful ways. So the first do here is so important. You gotta know what's important to them and especially what they want from you. If you provide content to them that is interesting, useful, uplifting, meaningful, they'll engage with that. You will see that in the likes and the shares, and the audience will grow. All those things are true. If you post things that aren't important to them, that are easy, maybe not relevant to your particular organization and their experience of it, right? Frankly, a Super Bowl Sunday greeting is probably not that relevant to your audience coming from you, unless you're hosting an event, right? So you really got to think about who are they, what do they want to hear? And then the second point is pay attention to their behavior. I love the internet because they tell you what they want, right? People like something, they want more of that. People ignore something, that doesn't mean anything to them, right? So it's so amazing how just by looking at their behavior, you can get guidance on what they want, what they need, right? That is time of day, that is type of content, that is frequency of content, right? All of those things are numbers that you can get from Facebook. All of those things, for me, when I was posting on behalf of clients regularly, it was post, check an hour later, check 6 hours later, check 24 hours later. And you'll see, you guys probably know this already, Facebook posts have a really short shelf life, right? They're only relevant for like 3 or 4 hours if they're awesome. So this isn't a big investment, but you can learn so much about what resonates with them. That's what we're trying to do, right? So another point, you guys probably have seen posts that say, please like so that other people can see this content. Please share this to your friends and family so that they feel invited. Do it. Absolutely do it. You're like 40% more likely to get the response that you want by asking for it, point blank, straightforward. I will say, there's a thing it's being called engagement bait. I'm not a fan of share if you like chocolate, like if you like vanilla, right? That kind of fake engagement is fake. It's not meaningful. And I'm guessing even those of you in charge of a youth group want something meaningful, right? It's got to be important. The final one is always ask permission. If you got the image off of someone else's website, if you got the image off of someone else's Facebook, if you're going to tag someone, call someone out as an individual, please make sure you have their permission first. Because if you don't, they'll not be very happy with you. So let's get to the don't side. I'm a massive fan of efficiency. If you are managing, say, a fellowship of much older congregants, please don't use Twitter. None of them are on Twitter. You're wasting your time on Twitter. Go where they are and don't go anywhere else. You don't get brownie points for being on more social platform networks, right? So, youth groups, Twitter, Instagram. Mom groups, Pinterest, right? The general audience, they're on Facebook. Initiate engagement with them on their turf. Don't do it. Don't go post on someone else's wall as I usually work with brands, I'm saying brand. As an organization, don't go post on someone's wall. As a personal representation of that organization, say like I was helping Hannah with Bishop Mathis's social media content, right? He should never go post on someone's wall. If someone comes to him and writes to him with a question or a concern or shares something, absolutely respond, absolutely. but he should never go out after individuals because he's representing the organization. Is that clear? It's really tricky, this line between where the person starts and the organization stops, and that's where a lot of this gets in trouble. And it sort of goes down to the last point on the don't side, right, which is don't get personal. You, the individual who is writing this content, might know everybody who's going to respond and like, but that doesn't matter because it's not from you. It's from the organization that you're representing. And so you really have to learn the difference between you as a person and you as the representative of this organization and interact the way the organization would interact, not the way you as an individual would interact. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Cool. So that's where we are. Sorry, I'm going to check time really quick. So that's sort of the gist of understanding who you're talking to and how you can meet their needs. So then that's this side over here. So then let's talk about your side over here, because you're not doing this for them, you're doing this for you, right? You're doing this to advance the goals of the organization. So in order to be more effective there, identifying your key messages is something that is absolutely worth the time to do. Be super intentional. You know, our general congregation Facebook page, it is to invite people to events. It is to uplift people with simple teachings of, you know, daily life. And it is to, I don't know, encourage others to grow our congregation. Congregation, right? Whatever your core messages are, there should be 3 of them. And every single thing you post, you should be able to point to and say, it does one of these 3 things. Maybe it'll do 2 or 3 of them, but it absolutely has to do one. If it doesn't do one of those things, it's got no business on your page. So, key messages. Then you've got to spend a little time, not a lot of time, just a little time, thinking about the voice, thinking about the words that you use and the way that you express these ideas. Because lots of organizations have several different people contributing to the social media presence. So you want to make sure that your audience can't tell who the individual was that posted any given message, right? They should all sound like they're coming from the same voice, which is the organization. So again, working with Hannah, we defined voice characteristics that went specifically with Bishop Mathis, and voice characteristics that went specifically with the diocese as a whole. And they're different, right? The diocese as a whole is an organizational body. They're nurturing, they're planning, they're open. Bishop Mathis, as an individual and a representative, he's a leader, right? He's a teacher. You'll use different words, you'll use different approach to the same content. So when you give your audience clear characteristics like that they can count on, and you stick to them consistently, then they can start to get involved. They can start to identify with this thing. They know what to expect from it. They know how to interact with it. And it reinforces a relationship that can continue to grow and help you meet your needs. Are you guys with me? You understand what I'm talking about? Okay, cool. Huge fan of planning. Plan your content. The way that I would approach it for you guys is probably break it down into seasons of the church, figure out what your core messages are going to be for each season so that you've got some high-level guidance on planning, and then on a low-level place be like, okay, once a week Facebook is going to get an image with a piece of scripture. It's going to get a video of something that happened in church on Sunday. It's going to get, just plan out that structure so that Wednesday morning when you wake up and you have to put something on Facebook, you know what you're going to put. You're not going to be scrambling. You can plan ahead to get videos and images that are meaningful. It will make everyone's life so much easier, and it makes your content more effective because you've got a little time to plan and put thought into it. Variety of content types, I've sort of alluded to this a lot. Video is the future. If anybody's on Facebook already, now you know, like, video is the future on the entire internet, but Facebook also is very important. But, you know, whatever works for your audience. Again, they're going to tell you. Variety is important, but they're going to tell you which ones they really want to see. And then the last point on the do side is if you're using it to promote events, do it super consistently. If you look really closely, what you'll see is that a very small portion of your audience sees a very small portion of your content. No one goes to the page that represents the organization. That's very rare. The way they get your content is by it showing up in their news feeds. They see a lot of other stuff. It's easy to skim by it. Most people, it won't even go, most of your fans, it won't even go into their news feed. You've got to have, it's all based on some math that says the things that people want to see get lots of likes and shares. So we wait for content to get lots of likes and shares before we put it in front of everybody, right? So there's this cycle that needs to happen. And it happens for every Facebook page to some extent, right? But the point I'm trying to get to is if you're promoting events, assume very strongly that no one has seen the promotions. If it's a big event and you want a lot of people there, it's a really, really significant outreach, I would honestly recommend posting probably every other day for 2 or 3 weeks. Because there's way better scenario where one person sees the reminder twice than 500 people don't see the reminder at all, right? So, so those are the do's. The don'ts are mostly related to defining a voice. It's a little tricky, but these are, very simple guidelines. Don't overuse exclamation points. None of you are representing brands for whom that makes sense, right? Don't use all caps. No reason for that kind of enthusiasm. Jargon, slang, lol speak, which is, what we use for texting, the shortened acronyms and stuff. None of that stuff. Don't recycle content. Event promotions are an exception, but if I saw the same picture every single day of Lent or every single Easter, whatever it is we're promoting, it starts to feel like you don't care, right? And then finally, irrelevant, personal, boring. Like the thing about a good user-focused social media presence is that you're thinking about the user, right? Don't think about you. What do they want? What do they need? What will help them? That's how to get them motivated to interact. So the last thing, and I've sort of gotten through this a bunch, really do look at the analytics. Really do go through and click through. It's called Facebook Insights. It just shows you what are the most popular posts, how did they get interacted with, learn from them, use that information to help inform what you're going to do in the upcoming days and weeks, because they vote with their clicks. That's how you know what works. And it's really easy to look at. So that is all of my stuff, but I really want to hear examples. I want to hear horror stories. I want to hear, let me solve your problems.
A problem that I've had with the page recently, as the admin, there's 2 of us that are the admin, so you're right about it's not always the same voice, so we have to watch that.
Right.
But in order to boost membership, it keeps on saying, instead of giving me the list of people that I have or that the other admin person has that we can invite to be on the page, it will say boost membership, $10 for so many days, and it's kind of like they want you to buy stuff. And that's the kind of reason I haven't noticed that except for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what do you think about that, and is there some way to get around that and just, go to other means of getting people like the page?
Yeah, so
And what does it get you? I mean, I'm not really sure what it gets you.
yeah, there's a few different ways to advertise on Facebook, right? You can actually advertise a link to something else, which if you happen to be using advertising to bring people somewhere, to a website, that's not a terrible thing. You can advertise, I think what you're seeing is to increase your audience size, right? Get more likers for your page kind of thing. There's a lot of questions about that, and I don't know what is in it for you to spend money that way. It seems to me like this is a place where it's people who are in your community and want to be a part of your community. You should invite them. You should, the Sunday Bulletin should have we're on Facebook, this is the kind of thing we post. Like, absolutely be explicit when you're with the community that this is a thing we're doing and we want you to participate in it, I don't see any benefit to paying to increase your audience size. I think in that case, you're likely to end up with more folks from Indonesia who may or may not be interested in your message.
How do you get rid of that though? 'Cause I think you're right, I don't want that anymore. What I want is
Yeah.
either people I know or the other admin, so we can find out who hasn't, liked the page yet, justify them. But we can't get rid of the Facebook stuff that keeps popping up. They're trying to get us to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know how. The truth is they're a business. And so, and you know what they say about the internet, right? If it's free, it's because you're the product. So, yeah, there's some things. I mean, someday maybe there's a paid version where you can avoid stuff like that. But even still in your context, I'm not sure it would make sense. So, let me see. What else?
We're relatively new to Facebook, and so we're trying, notice that like you said, they don't go to our page, they just look on their news feed. And the news feed, I mean, there's a new algorithm or something that's keeping, I mean, is there stuff that the user, not the page, the user can do to help bring their stuff closer to or up on the news, their news feed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, if you want to promote this, ask people explicitly. I don't think Facebook is the right place to do it. This is the thing that you do in the bulletin. But there, for each page, right, that's what we call anything owned by an organization. When it shows up in your news feed, there's a little drop down. There's a tiny little arrow right in the top right corner. And if you click on it, you can select show every update from this, from this page. And that way they will always get seen. That's a great point and super important. When your audience size is finite, when you know exactly how many people you're after on this thing, that's a really, really good way to make sure that your message gets across. I mean, I think there's still an element of the more likes and shares it gets, the more likely it will show up. I don't think it's a completely blanket.
I think they're moving that down.
Yeah.
So likes and shares are really part of that algorithm.
Yeah.
That helps them get it into their news feed.
Yep. That's the trick. It's a great thing about the way the internet is moving these days is that every Google and Facebook and all these things, they're just trying to get a good experience for the user, right? And so if something gets liked and shared a lot, pretty strong indicator that it's useful to a lot of people, right? So that's what they use to make their decisions.
But it's different than the website. Websites that can be passive. They can do, you're talking about.
Well, Google does it.
require me to-
Google's doing the same thing now, where instead of looking at sort of old metrics now when they're assessing whether or not a website is good, they're looking at how long does the page take to load and how long do people spend on the site interacting with it, and sort of it's really very user-centric sort of world there. So I think I'm probably out of time just about. Is there one more question? No? Cool. Okay. I got a big stack of business cards up here. I'll hang around for a little while if you guys want to catch me independently, but I hope this is helpful to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.